Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is of course going to be another episode of my championship score predictions. So guys, if you've not seen this series before, let me quickly explain how it all goes down. So every weekend I give you guys my championship score predictions for what I think the results will be with each game going on in the championship. FIFA 18 also gives their score predictions, but what I'm of course interested to know is what you guys have to say. So all of this weekend's fixtures, guys, will be listed in the description down below, and then you guys can easily go ahead and make your predictions. And then if you do manage to get any of your score predictions correct, I will include your comment at the start of the next video. And this weekend's games in the championship, I don't think they're going to disappoint. We have two massive fixtures going on tonight in the championship, a whole lot of action to discuss over Saturday, and we have a Monday night derby going on in the championship as well. So it's going to be a busy one this weekend, guys, but I'm looking forward to getting into this one. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get into the fixtures. So our first game to go ahead and discuss is the first game taking place tonight, guys. That is between Cardiff and Norwich City. So two sides at the moment definitely in contrasting forms. Norwich probably on one of the worst runs in the championship at the moment. Going forward especially, they're really lacking quite a bit of punch at this point in time. And when you contrast that to Cardiff, and especially their home form this season, this really is going to be a tough test for Norwich to get something from this game. But Norwich, they can take a couple of positives into this one. I know that Alex Pritchard is coming back from an injury at the moment, so he could be a lively spot to come on for them in this one here today. But even with that, with how resilient Cardiff have looked defensively this season, I'm just not convinced that this Norwich attack force will be able to break them down with how they're currently playing. So they do have a couple of bright sparks in there. You know, we could see Maddison or Murphy, you know, have a moment of magic. But apart from that, I think this one is going to go down to a pretty comfortable Cardiff victory. So for this one, I'm going to back a 2-0 home victory for Cardiff. For as FIFA saying, it'll be 1-0 Norwich. And then our next game is between Leeds United and Aston Villa. Our second game taking place tonight, guys. And this could have a huge significance on the championship for the rest of the season, in my opinion. Both sides really could do with 3 points in this one. I think that if Aston Villa are to win this game here today, they could be showing that they may be serious. They do have serious credentials to be pushing on for automatics this year. If they don't, then we're probably not going to see that from them this year, in my opinion. Leeds, of course, at Ellen Road, it's not going to be an easy place for Villa to go with, especially as some of their creative players now are starting to come back into form. You know, we were seeing some great play last time out from players like Alioski, Saiss and Hernandez, so their interchange in play could cause this Villa side some problems, and I'm intrigued to see how Villa will actually approach this game. If they decide to go ahead and sit back like they have done a couple times this season, similar to how they played against Wolves, I think Leeds could dominate the game then. You know, the players that would pick up pockets of space like Hernandez and Alioski and Saiss, they just cause that Villa defence too many problems. But if Villa take this game on the front foot and really drive forward with players in form like Albert Adoma at the moment, they could cause Leeds some problems. But for this one, for a prediction, this one is in the balance for me. But even so, I'm going to back a 2-1 home victory for Leeds. I just have a gut feeling that Leeds are going to do this one tonight, and so I'll say 2-1 Leeds, although I'm not 100% convinced. And now, guys, into the Saturday game. So our first game on Saturday to discuss is Bolton coming up against Barnsley. Now, of course, Bolton have sunk back to the bottom of the championship. Of course, they did get a loss last time out after what was a pretty encouraging run before that. Coming up against this Barnsley side who, similarly, really aren't in a brilliant run of form, of course. In midweek, they actually went ahead and lost 3-0 to Reading, which can't be doing this Barnsley squad any good in terms of confidence, especially with the run they were already going under. So this game against Bolton is a massive opportunity for them to be getting back to winning ways, but I don't think Bolton will make it easy for them in this one here today, and honestly, I can see this one heading towards a draw. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and predict a 1-1 draw, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 1-0 Barnsley. And our next game is a very intriguing encounter to go ahead and discuss. We have a London derby going on between Brentford and Fulham. Now, Brentford fans, I would love to get some of your guys' opinions on what you thought of the Monday night game against QPR. That was just Wow, that was a bit of a bottle job, I'm not going to lie about that. But even so, a game against Fulham in this one here today. Not going to be an easy one for Brentford, this one actually, as Fulham have now gone ahead and won their last 2 games and are looking to turn around their season really and push back up towards that top 6 of course. Both of them will have the similar aim this season to be going for the playoffs, and both have shown so far this season that going forward they do have the requirements for that. It's just defensively I'm not convinced about either of them. So for that reason I do get the impression that this game could see quite a few goals being scored in, and so I do get that gut feeling though that Brentford's performances recently haven't been quite as good as we were seeing a couple of weeks ago really. So for that reason I'm going to go for a 3-2 away victory for Fulham. I'm looking forward to watching that one, but I'll say 3-2 Fulham, Fee for saying 1-0 Brentford. And our next game sees Derby County go up against Burton Albion. So of course both of these two sides will be wanting to get back to winning ways in this one of course. Derby were in action in midweek and did suffer a 1-0 defeat at the hands of Ipswich Town. Burton of course currently second bottom of the championship. Not a brilliant run at the moment. They're without a win in their last 3 games, so they'll be hoping to put an end to that as soon as possible. And I do get the impression that Burton, they might have a chance in this one. If they employ a similar tactic to what Ipswich were playing in midweek, we could see Burton get something out of this, you know. If they do sit back, be quite resilient and then snatch a chance going forward from a set piece or a counter-attack, maybe that could play into their hands. But even so, Derby, I did think that going forward they had a bit of an off day in midweek. You know, they were creating chances, they just weren't very clinical with them. But with how good players going forward for Derby have been this season, like Tom Lawrence, Vidra and David Nugent, they have the capabilities to unlock that Burton defence. But for this one, I'm going to go for a slim 1-0 home victory for Derby. I feel like Burton will hold out for most of the match, but even so, I feel like their defence may cave in eventually. So I'll say 1-0 Derby, Fee for saying 1-0 Burton. And now next game sees Ipswich Town go up against Nottingham Forest. So of course, we were just discussing Ipswich's game in midweek. Quite an impressive one actually to go ahead and pick up all 3 points in that one, which did propel them quite a bit up the championship actually. So two sides here going up against each other who have had similar outsets so far this season. They've had a similar start compared to each other. So Nottingham Forest this season are a really hard side to predict in my opinion. They're yet to draw a match, so with Forest it's all or nothing. They either go out for the win or they just have an off day, and I get the impression that this one may be an off day for Forest. The reason I say that is because I think that setting up for set pieces and defensively in general, I think Forest still do have a couple of issues to go ahead and iron out. If Ipswich can be clinical with those set pieces, they will score a couple of goals in this one. So for that reason, I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory for Ipswich in this one, whereas FIFA is going to say 1-0 Ipswich. And our next game sees Millwall go up against Sheffield United. So of course, Millwall in the Championship this season had a brilliant start, but since then they have started to slowly filter down the Championship. You know, their form has been tailing off a little bit recently. I think they're without a win now in their last 5 or so games, so not a brilliant run that they're under at the moment, but equally so, Sheffield United aren't quite hitting the same heights that they were a couple of weeks ago. You know, a loss and a draw as their last few results, but this is a big opportunity for them now to go ahead and get back to winning ways and keep applying that pressure on the top of the Championship. Do I see them doing that though? It's quite an interesting game of course. In League One last year this game will have taken place, and two sides which have gone to overall be decent Championship sides, but for this one I get the impression that this one could be heading for quite a few goals being scored, and I'm actually going to fancy Millwall to go ahead and snatch a point from this one. I'm going to go ahead and predict it to be a 2-2 draw. Despite Millwall looking a little bit shaky recently, you know, they've lost quite a few games by 1-0. They'll be looking to rectify that in this one, and I think they'll nick a point in this one. So I'll say 2-2, FIFA saying 2-0 Millwall. Then our next game sees my club Preston North then go up against QPR, and of course we have to briefly touch on QPR and their heroics on Monday night against Brentford. I mean, I'm also interested to hear from QPR fans as to what did you make of Ian Holloway's comments after the game. But apart from that, QPR of course showed a lot of spirit to get back into that game, but let's not distract from the fact that QPR on the whole aren't on a brilliant run at this point in time. So this is a big opportunity for my club Preston to go ahead and really cement this form at the moment and look to build back up the Championship after we had a disastrous run not too long ago. But I'm going to do it in this one. I'm going to go ahead and predict a 2-1 Preston home victory, which is, I say that quite apprehensively because it's been a while since I've predicted a Preston victory, so that could come back to backfire in this one. But looking over QPR's away record for the whole of this season, it's not been great, so I'll be expecting Preston to be on the front foot from this game and take the game to QPR, so I'm hoping for a victory in this one, so I'll go ahead and say 2-1. Thief is saying 1-0 Preston. And our next game sees Sheffield Wednesday go up against Hull City, and I mean, this is a big moment for these two clubs. Both of them really are in need of a victory after what was, in their last game week, a pretty disappointing one. I think that's fair to say, of course. Sheffield Wednesday had a really lacklustre performance against Reading in a 0-0 draw where they literally just really sat back for the entire game, and of course Hull bottled that 2-0 lead they had over Bristol City to go ahead and lose by 3-2. So for this one, I would like to see some goals being scored, especially from Sheffield Wednesday. I'd like to see them attacking a lot more than they have been doing recently, and I get the impression that they will do. You know, this Hull defence has been quite fragile this season, so I anticipate Sheffield Wednesday to go and take the game to Hull in this game. So for that reason, I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory for Wednesday in this one. If they do play to their strengths, they're a decent side, so I'll say 2-1. FIFA saying 1-0 Wednesday. Then our next game sees Sunderland go up against Reading, and I mean, surely sooner rather than later, Sunderland have to just put an end to this curse that they're currently under, and they have to get a home victory in the Championship. Will it happen in this game week though, guys? I'm not so sure, of course. Reading in midweek put in a very spirited performance to go ahead and pick up a 3-0 home victory at Barnsley, and with how fragile Sunderland have been at home this season, it's a big opportunity for Reading really to go ahead and pick up back-to-back victories. But under Chris Coleman, I do get the impression that Sunderland are slowly starting to improve, especially going forward. I think they've been alright under Chris Coleman so far. Defensively, they still need to work on a few things, but nevertheless, do I have the bottle to back Sunderland for a victory? That's the real question here. You know what? I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I get the impression that this game could be heading in that direction, so I'll say 1-1. Thief is going to back a 1-0 Reading. Then we do go into the evening kickoff on Saturday, taking place between Bristol City and Middlesbrough, and this does have the potential to be a very good game in my opinion, of course. Bristol City looked like they were having a little bit of a wobble in the Championship, but then they did manage to get that miraculous comeback away at Hull to pick up that 3-2 victory. Middlesbrough have not been brilliant recently, of course. They did get that 3-0 defeat last time out at the hands of Derby County, so even though that scoreline was a bit deceiving in my opinion, Middlesbrough weren't actually that bad in that game. But this one, I think that goals could be scored in this one. Both sides have had very potent attacks so far this season really, of course, with Middlesbrough having threats like a Sombolonga, who's been one of the top scorers in the Championship this year, and Bristol City having a whole abundance of attacking talent at the moment. This game could have the potential to be a very lively one indeed, and I get the impression that neither side will be holding back for this one. I want to see two sides just go for it in this one and see what the outcome is, and so for my prediction for the outcome, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Quite a few goals could be scored, but I reckon they'll level each other out. And then guys, our last game to go ahead and predict, we have another Monday night kickoff in the Championship. What are these Monday night fixtures all about? I've got no idea, but nevertheless, we do have a derby going on between Birmingham and Wolves, and once again, this does have the potential to be a very fierce one, of course. Two sides this season who are at opposing ends of the season, so we could see a couple fiery tackles going in this one here today. I think what I'm most interested in seeing from this game is we all know the abundances of talent which Wolves possess. You know, that's why they're top of the Championship. But what's going to strike me as interesting is how Birmingham actually go ahead and approach this game. In my opinion, they're probably going to look to soak the pressure up of Wolves, look to play quite resilient defensively, which is a bit of a risk considering this is Birmingham's defence, but they do have the potential to catch Wolves out maybe on the counter-attack. I think if they play to their strengths through players like Che Adams and Jeremy Boga, who I thought was terrific last time out, they might have a potential to cause Wolves some problems going forward. But nevertheless, I mean, can anyone stop Wolves at the moment? It's not looking very likely, so I'm going to go for a 3-1 away victory for Wolves. I mean, their attack is just an absolute joke, and compared to that Birmingham defence, it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. So I'll say 3-1 to Wolves. Thief is saying it's going to be 2-0 Birmingham. So guys, there you have it. that will wrap it up for this episode of my championship score predictions. So do you guys agree with my predictions? Let me know down below. But apart from that, guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So if you have enjoyed, make sure to leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure to check out all the other links in the description down below, and make sure you subscribe for regular championship content. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.